Hello and welcome to episode 406 of Geektown Radio. I'm your host Dave, and with me this week is... Darryl, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. It's been a few weeks since you've been on. What have you been watching?
It has indeed. So, when I'm not freezing, I have been watching Invincible Season 2, Part 1.
Yes.
The big return of the adult animated series based on the Skybound Image comic about a teenager whose father is the most powerful superhero on the planet. And obviously it stars Stephen Yeun, J.K. Simmons, Sandra Oh, and a whole host of other talents.
Yes, most of which come from The Walking Dead. An awful lot of them. Although there's now a bunch of people that like, you know, Mark Hamill and Zazie Beetz and Walter Goggins, and it's crazy cast. Sterling K. Browney's in there as well this time. So it's just a nuts cast they've got for that. Have you been enjoying it? I really like that series.
I do like Invincible. I feel a bit uneven about this season. Obviously Invincible came out of nowhere when it came out a few years ago on Prime Video, because I can remember when it came out, it happened to be the height of everything. So there's Marvel shows, there's all sorts of things around it, and I think it was a bit quiet until we had a few weeks for everyone else to catch up.
Yeah.
And then it just became one of these shows. But yeah, so in season 2, obviously after the very, very messy events of last season's finale, we have our young hero picking up the pieces. Him and his mother are shattered, highly traumatized, and definitely need some sort of mental health intervention. But you know how these things go. So they just keep on keeping on. Also, we watch his graduation. And it's that sort of thing that I like. I like the fact that we're going between, obviously, this family getting over this terrible betrayal and the world sort of also dealing with it. But at the same time, he still has to be a person with a normal life as he graduates and he heads off to college. It's very Spider-Man. There's a reason why in the comics that they have a crossover, Spider-Man and thing.
I didn't realize that.
They do. Oh, yeah, they do have a... Invincible goes over to the Marvel Universe for a little bit.
Cool.
But yeah, I do like it. The episode's a bit uneven, and the fact that it's 4 episodes is very weird to go, oh yeah, that's your half a season. Yeah. Now, let that settle.
I remember they were sort of splitting it up, and I mean, it's taken forever for them to do it. I know animation takes a long time, but it took a really
it's taken a longer time than even allowing for the whole animation thing. I don't know what happened, but yeah, it's definitely longer than you would expect.
Yeah. Didn't they do a 2-season renewal of it to try and make sure the gap was a bit shorter for the next season as well? But I think the second part's due to drop in early 2024, I think they've said, with another 4 episodes. So it's only 8 episodes as well. It's not like 10 or anything. So it was a bit weird. It's like, oh, there's no episode this week. Okay. As I say, I'm enjoying it. It's been a good show, but...
It's a very good show. I do like how creative and interesting sort of the heroes and villains are. The villains are quite well written.
Yes.
If only other comic-based entertainment shows could do that, it'd be great.
You can sort of see why they don't do it in live action, though, because, I mean, it would cost a fortune to do that in live action, that show. And because it would need a decent-sized budget, and you wouldn't be able to get away, I don't think. Well, actually, on Prime, you probably could get away with the level of violence, I mean, given that, you know, what they do on things like The Boys, but it is level of violence.
I think there'd be technical challenges, just for the sheer amount of aerial combat to make that not look ridiculous.
Yeah.
You'd probably have to invent like 3 or 4 new harnesses and things.
Yeah.
It is a great show. I'm glad it's there because we know how Hollywood is and they will iterate on anything they see as a success. So hopefully it can be a way forward. But yeah, if you've seen Invincible, you already watched it like I have, and now we're all just sitting around waiting for part 2.
Yes.
The next thing I watched might be something a bit different for people. NCIS Sydney.
Good. I'm glad you've watched this because I'm not hugely into the NCIS franchise, but this is obviously a new one and it's shorter and it's slightly different. So I was interested to hear a review of this. So go on.
Okay. NCIS is a huge brand, and no, it's not CSI, it's a different thing. NCIS is Naval Criminal Investigations Services, and they have the mothership, which is currently running, which is NCIS. Ludicrously successful. It's a simple procedural. We have a team of investigators as well as a pathologist who does the autopsy autopsies for when they inevitably find the dead bodies. The tech person. It's that simple formula. With it coming over to Sydney, because it is set in Sydney and features largely Australian actors, I think only maybe one or two are not Australian of the main cast. In the first story, which is also their origin story, there is a US nuclear submarine docking in Sydney, and that's the first time that's ever happened.
Right.
So that's why NCIS is there, and we see the local Australian Federal Police, which is played by Todd Lasance, which is a well-known Australian actor. So obviously they're there to look after everything. Inevitably, a body drops, and this high-strung American NCIS lead is forcibly partnered with the straight-laced Australian federal officer, and that's the first episode, is those working together. The NCIS lead, which is played by Olivia Swan, who you'll recognize from Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah, she was Astra, wasn't she? Yeah.
Yeah, she has one partner with her, so another NCIS, but actually the rest of the cast are not. So there's only two NCIS members in this show.
Right.
The rest of them, there is two ATF, so Australian federal officers, this new tech student who has multiple PhDs and is there sort of getting like work experience, working with their coroner pathologist. That's the sort of team. And it's that inevitable thing of it's an American in a foreign land and all those sorts of tropes of getting into the car on the wrong side when she wants to drive, things like that. A little bit of sort of clashing of styles, almost adversarial, but it never goes past sort of light comedy sort of route. I watched the episodes. It's pretty good. It's coming together well. The cast, good energy. That's the central thing of the NCIS shows, is that all of the cast members interact well. There's lots of banter because they are constantly bouncing little jokes off each other. And I think you sort of need to see that within the show to keep on watching in a way that, I guess, more serious shows, like, for instance, most of, say, Law and Order SVU didn't have that sort of interaction between the cast until much, much later, like 6 or 7 seasons in, whereas NCIS tends to go for that from the start, especially if you have what's, say, Los Angeles, which was very heavy on the interactions between the sort of central cast.
Yeah.
Obviously, that has come to an end now. So if you like NCIS, it's interesting to watch. It being in Australia is an interesting twist. The second episode sees them going after poisonous snakes.
Right.
Getting right into that local lore, I guess. And yeah, really good so far.
It's a short season as well, because it's an odd one, because it was specifically made for Paramount Plus Australia. So it was sort of made outside of the standard CBS model. So it's only 10 episodes. It actually aired in the UK before it aired in the US, because it started on the 10th of November here and it went out on the 14th in the US. It basically aired globally on Paramount Plus in a lot of places, apart from, I think, in the US where they put it on CBS. So the licensing's a little bit different for it, but it seems like a nice different addition to the franchise. I've never, as I say, been massively into the NCIS shows just because there's a lot of them and I just never really kind of got around to watching them, but I'm told they are quite good. So I'm all for them trying different things, and I think this was an interesting, different idea for them. So that's good. No, the cast seemed decent enough. She was good on Legends of Tomorrow. Sean Sagar, who's one of the other ones, was in Top Boy, and he was in Fate the Winx Saga and Our Girl as well, apparently. So good. But so I've been looking at Paramount Plus this week as well. So we'll get to that in a minute.
It is a Paramount Plus sort of time. Right. So next for me is Monarch, Legacy of Monsters.
Ah, yes. Apple.
Yes, indeed. Set after the battle between Godzilla and the Titans, really the monsters are real, follows one family's journey to uncover its buried secrets and a legacy linking them to Monarch. Probably the first thing to explain is that Monarch is the name of the fictional US and or global agency that deals with monsters in the MonsterVerse. So like they sort of take over, if you remember, way back to Kong Island. They are established, because you find out from watching the episodes, that they are established in the run-up to the Second World War. It's an interesting little show. The budget's extraordinary. The cast is amazing. We have Anna Sawai, who is known for Pachinko, which is this really award for the show. Tells the story of a Korean, not dynasty, but a Korean family over several generations. Obviously, we have Kurt and Wyatt Russell playing the same person, young and old. We have Kiersey Clemens, who plays a hacker. Basically, the show revolves around 2 half-siblings, because we have the daughter, who was living and born in America, and who also lived through the San Francisco attack. She comes to Japan because her father's disappeared or died to settle his affairs, only to run into her father's other family. Which, if you're old enough, you remember back in the 90s, that was one of the biggest tropes ever. There were always men with two families. How they managed to afford two mortgages beyond me, but never mind. But anyway, obviously, this is a huge shock. She isn't dealing with it well. Eventually, after some back and forth, they come together and the brother takes her to their father's office in Japan, which is nearby to where they live, and they stumble upon some documents. And these happen to be Monarch documents. So, their father was like this operative spy thing, which neither of them knew anything about.
I see.
Unfortunately, they take those documents because they're quite old. So they're like 60s, so like those weird magnetic tape things and all that sort of thing, and a lot of actual physical paperwork. They take it to a hacker who tries to decrypt it. She scans a little bit of it, puts it up on the web, and it's picked up by Monarch themselves, who quickly sent one of their agents who goes off to find out what's happening. And that basically starts a chase between this Monarch agent and the two siblings, as well as a hacker who gets dragged along for a ride. So that's what we get in the present time. But there's much, much more here, because in the past, into the 40s, we see the beginning of Monarch, which is Kurt Russell's character. I think he's Air Force. And he's given this role to protect a scientist, which he thinks is a waste of time, basically just to be her driver. And this scientist is going around and investigating what will eventually become monsters.
Right.
So what happens is we go between those two timelines, as well as other timelines, like we go back to the time of the San Francisco attack and a few more little things. So there's quite a lot going on throughout these episodes of the show, and there's quite a lot to take in. Mm-hmm. What it does do well, it doesn't scrimp on the monsters, so you see plenty of monsters.
Good.
It's an interesting thing to see a fully realized world with lots of little touches to indicate that, yes, this is the world that you and I would recognize immediately, but yes, this world also has to take into the fact that at any moment, monsters could come barreling through and there isn't a darn thing that anyone could do about it.
Right.
So there's a monster warning that goes off when the sister is over in Japan looking at a thing, and they all run off into a sort of like a bunker, which then prompts her panic attack, because obviously she went through San Francisco, and you see what happened. I won't give it all away, but yeah, what happened was quite traumatic, even if you managed to survive it. And yeah, it's just those little touches that keep things interesting, and that's about as far as I get it. We haven't uncovered anything bigger. They're basically just looking for their father at this point.
Cool. It's an interesting one, this, because the show looked quite good, and obviously you'd think it'd be sort of up my sort of street, given the type of stuff that we will watch. I haven't actually seen any of those MonsterVerse films, and I don't know why. They've just sort of bypassed me.
I've only seen one.
So I sort of want to go back and watch through them all, because there's Godzilla, there's Skull Island, there's King of the Monsters, Godzilla versus Kong, and the new one coming next year as well. So there's kind of a lot of them, and so I want to go through and actually sort of watch them. But the cast for this does look quite good. I noticed Christopher Heyerdahl is in there as well.
Shout out to Christopher Heyerdahl, one of my favorite actors who's in anything, even as looked at a sci-fi show.
Yes, yeah. I mean, pops up.
Great actor. He's in this. He's a one-star general.
Yeah. Most recently, like Peacemaker, Chapelthwaite, popped up in an episode of Discovery. Tin Star, he was in Librarians. He's popped up in Midnight Texas, Van Helsing, 12 Monkeys, Arrow, Minority Report, the TV series, Beauty and the Beast, Falling Skies. I mean, True Blood. Hell on Wheels, of course, was one of the big roles. What was the other? Sanctuary. That's the one I was thinking
of. That's the show that he was what we covered in. He was also in Andromeda.
Yes, Stargate Atlantis as well. He had quite a big role in that as one of the Wraiths. He's an incredible actor and just seems wonderful. He's even in The Last of Us. And one of them said when The Last of Us came out, you know that this is going to be a good show when Christopher Heyerdahl turns up in the opening thing and he's never seen again, because he is one of the, the way Last of Us opens in that scene of them discussing the potential dangers of mycelial, fungi and that sort of stuff. And he is one of the two people that's used in that initial shot. And you're like, okay, so he's not going to show up again. And they've thrown an actor of his caliber away in this. This is going to be a good show. Great actor. So I'm always happy and excited to see him in something. He's great. Really, really, really good cast that they've got in there. I will go and actually watch that series, but I want to go and watch some of the movies first before I get.
I will add up to because I have seen enough of the articles. I'm paying to say you do not need to see the films in order to get involved in this, and that's pretty true because there's nothing in there that goes back to that other than the fact that yes, monsters exist, and that's one thing you need to accept.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and honestly, it does get me sort of interested about then going to access the other ones, which I think is the point.
Well, yes, I'm sure that is the case.
So I listened to Slayers.
Yes, they were pushing this quite hard at
exactly.
MCM
I was just about to say they would know what this is because it was on our identification tags for MCM Comic Con that we just had a couple months ago. So it's hard not to think about it. But Slayers is from Amber Benson, who you should recognize, and Chris Golden. And if you don't recognize who Chris Golden is, he is a very talented writer who does a lot of adaptions. And when I say adaptions, so for instance, if there's a big game like, say, Star Wars Battlefront, Chris Golden is likely to be the person who writes a novel adaptation. He's the same man. He also does things like he does a lot of stuff for Star Wars, especially Legends. He did a lot of writing for Legends, which is the old Star Wars stuff before Disney bought it and then turned all that stuff to non-canon. Also a lot of World of Warcraft, because there are 2 or 3 World of Warcraft books every couple of years, especially around when new expansion hits. He does a lot of those as well. So if you look around, you will see his name. And it's co-directed because it's an audio drama, so it's just like a radio play, by Casey Wayland. So its original cast members from the beloved TV series Buffy the Vampire Slayer reunite for an all-new adventure about connections that never die, even if you bury them. Amber Benson obviously appears. Juliet Landau reprises her role. James Masters is in it. Charisma Carpenter is in it as well as a number of other stars from the show. I get out of the way. No, she's not in it. Yes, she's referenced. So you get that there. And it's set 10 years after the Slayer spell, which turned on all the Slayers in the world at once.
Yeah.
So it's set around 10 years after that. And as we sort of see from the first sort of few episodes, I listened to it as a whole thing on Audible. So I don't really know how the episodes cut from one to one. But we see that the bad guys are sort of very much on the ropes because obviously there are a lot more Slayers to deal with. And we follow Spike, who at the beginning of things is working undercover. At first, he learns about plots to kill a Slayer who has been badly injured after a fight. But while he's dealing with that, he gets involved with a new Slayer. By new, I mean she became a Slayer this morning.
Right.
So he's sort of trying to babysit her while getting the rest of things done. Into that pops up a Cordelia, who obviously shouldn't be there. But this is not our Cordelia. This is a Cordelia from another dimension. And in her dimension, she is the Slayer, the only Slayer.
Right.
And she's on the sort of cusp of losing her war.
Right.
Which is why she's come to our dimension to find the one person who can help, Spike.
Interesting.
It's not given too much away because it does say this right at the beginning of the synopsis because I read it to check before I came on. The reason why Spike is the only one who can help is because in her dimension, the strongest leader of all the vampires is Drusilla.
Yes, that makes sense. Okay.
And so we have all these storylines juggling. And yeah, we just go on fairly wild ride. Yeah, lots of other sort of supporting cast members from Buffy show up. It's an interesting thing to see.
Yeah, I noticed they've roped in Danny Strong again as well, who's still amazing. You know, I mean, this is sort of where Danny Strong got his start, and he's now basically a Hollywood titan, producer, writer. He's a huge deal at this point. So I love the fact that he's been happy to go back and do some voice work for this. Anthony Head is in there as well. Emma Caulfield as Anya. Obviously, Charisma Carpenter is Cordelia. It's a really, really interesting project that they've done. And I'm so glad that they've managed to do it and do something new and interesting with it. If there's something new in the Buffyverse, I'm always going to be happy about. So I'm glad that they managed to get the license to do it, and it seems to have gone down incredibly well for them, which is great. It'd be interesting to see whether they do more of this moving forward, because Buffy seems like it's one of those things that should work really as a sort of audio adventure in the same way that Doctor Who works as audio stuff. There's no reason why you couldn't rope a bunch of the cast back in to do more audio things. Yeah. That's a great way of kind of keeping it alive and keeping it going, I think. So, and the fact that it's Amber Benson actually writing it and back playing Tara, I think the cast sort of taking ownership of it, which is great.
Yeah, that seems to be a central thing I saw from the interviews around the project coming out as well. It's very much about them taking control of something. Obviously, that was very important to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so having to solve it, it's about 8 hours long. For those audio people like me who listen to a lot of audiobooks, still that's relatively short as these things go. But it's definitely full of action. And it's very much an audio play, not an audiobook.
Yeah.
Because they're very different in the way that they approach things.
Yes.
Check it out, obviously. You can do it on Audible. If you don't have Audible, but you have Amazon Prime, you can take it out as a free trial. Obviously, remember to cancel it as soon as you initiate it so you don't get charged.
Yes.
Right, one more thing for me. SkyMed, which is a Paramount Plus, which is a Canadian show. I covered it quite a lot over time and follows intense character journeys and high-stakes medical rescues, heartbreaks and tribulations of budding nurses and pilots flying air ambulances.
Cool.
It is what it sounds like. It is set in the more rural and northern parts of Canada, in areas that don't have easy access to large hospitals. The SkyMed people, they fly in both supplies and medical staff, nurses in this point, and they will, for instance, they will go up to a reservation that is very out of the way just to check on some people. In the first episode, it was just a guy getting his dialysis done, so they were up there for that. And just if anyone at those places needs a medevac.
Right.
In this case, it's a medevac, which is a plane and not a helicopter.
Yes.
I guess just because the distances involved. As you would expect, it's lots of very pretty young people running around, getting into hijinks, getting into relationships in the crew. I hope I get this right. I believe it's Aaron Ashmore's in this.
Yes, it is. I just looked it up. It's Aaron Ashmore. He's the Smallville Warehouse 13 one, not the rookie one, out of the two Ashvilles.
Yeah, but he's sort of a father figure. He's one of the pilots, and the first episode, due to, let's say, some cutting of corners and some other things, he is injured, which is sort of the big thing that happens in there. And we sort of follow on the journey from that. We're also sort of following the perspective of a new person who just joins the SkyMed team. She's a young woman, nurse, formerly perinatal, who has moved up there. She gets a call from her parents, who's very upset that she's left, and they make reference to her being sick. And she says, I'm not sick. And you see her with some medical documentation. So we know that's going to fester and blow up sometime in the beginning of the middle season. But yeah, it's pretty fun. It is very character driven. There is a lot of conflict, whether it be with the nurses who are based out at these like very small medical stations who are perhaps not treating the native people as they should. There's some interplay because at the beginning we see one of the pilots comes back from an interview with Air Canada, and there's a lot of, is he going to go or is he going to stay? Did he get a job? Meanwhile, we have the people who work as sort of ground crew, basically waiting to become qualified so they can start being pilots for the teams. You can see the back and forth about that. It's pretty fun. I like the characters, like it. It feels a little bit like watching a show about university because it has that sort of feel.
Right.
Sort of feel like college life. No people who I'd immediately recognize except for a gentleman from Motherland Fort Salem.
Right.
Pranit Akila. I also know about him because at the moment he's trying to get a Desi vampire musical TV show concept pilot off the ground. Just because I just happen to be following him, and the Motherland Fort Salem people are very supportive of their cast, so it popped up on my feed.
Okay.
And after seeing that, you can't just not click on it. You can't read that and go, nah, I'm going to leave that alone. So I had a look. It's an interesting idea. But yeah, the rest of them are young, relatively unknown cast. medical drama aimed a little bit younger than normal. It's the easiest way to explain it.
Cool. Not one I've checked out, but I was aware of it. I was aware it was one that they picked up and it was a sort of, very Canadian thing. As I say, I've also been milling around on Paramount Plus because I was watching Lioness.
Yeah, I've been thinking about whether or not to watch that.
Rather enjoyed that, and that was really good, and that's led me on to watching another one from Taylor Sheridan. I watched Mayor of Kingstown, so I stepped into that one. But before we talk about that, there are a couple of other things just want to mention. Obviously, Geektown Awards are still running on the website, so you need to go on and vote on that if you haven't already. geektown.co.uk/awards. There is a big prize as well. All you got to do is go in, nominate your favourite TV shows, video games, and movies from the past 12 months. Just fill out the form on the website, and you're automatically entered into the prize draw, and you might win a huge box of geeky goodies, which has some great stuff in it. So go and check out the prize list and all that stuff, and go and fill out the form, geektown.co.uk/awards for that. There was one other thing I wanted to mention before I start talking about things I've been watching. You heard the news about Mark Sheppard?
No.
If you don't follow Mark Sheppard on social media, particularly Instagram, a couple of days ago, he was on his way to an appointment and collapsed in his kitchen.
Oh, no.
6 massive heart attacks later. And having been brought back from the dead 4 times, he apparently had 100% blockage in one of his arteries. It's what is known as the Widowmaker, which is the same thing that nearly killed Kevin Smith as well. It was the thing that Kevin Smith, if you remember, a couple of years ago, had a heart attack on stage. Apparently, Mark had 6 huge heart attacks, and they had to sort of bring him back from the dead 4 times. He is in hospital. He's doing okay. He posted this on social media. Mark Sheppard, if you've recognised the name and trying to place him, he plays Crowley in Supernatural. That's probably the biggest thing you'll know him from. But he has been in everything. I mean, he's one of those actors, like we were talking about Chris Arundel, just pops up in anything that's genre related. I mean, he was in Battlestar Galactica. He's popped up in Doctor Who.
But he's been in Walk Independence. He was in Doom Patrol.
Yes, of course, he's Doom Patrol. He plays not Constantine in Doom Patrol.
Yeah, Warehouse 13.
Yeah, Warehouse 13 was the other thing he was in. But yeah, I mean, he's been in a ton of different things. But as I say, he did write this on social media, on Instagram. It was a photo of him in hospital with pads and stuff where they're monitoring his heart on his chest. But he seems to be doing okay. They managed to get him into hospital okay and save his life. So that is all we really know about it at the moment. But he seems to be doing fine. That was the last post he made, and that was yesterday, I think it was, or the day before. So I've seen Mark a million times at Comic Cons, and he is wonderful. He's a lovely, lovely human being. He comes across as a little bit spiky when you're talking to him, but he is a complete sweetheart and just a really, really lovely guy. So I am so glad that he is still with us, particularly after going through something like that, and, with us enough to be able to sort of post a message like that to his social media. So I hope he gets well soon. And I mean, Kevin Smith, as I say, had the same thing and seems to be doing very, very well now as well. So that was a little bit of a shock, but I just wanted to sort of mention that if you hadn't seen that news about Mark Sheppard, and wish him well as well. On to things that I have been watching. Doctor Who, of course, came back with its second special, Wild Blue Yonder. Have you jumped back into Doctor Who for these?
I have not. I wouldn't feel right about jumping in and then immediately jumping back out again, just because I would be back for Donna, just coming in for Donna, then heading straight back out again. That would be a bit weird. I don't think Doctor Who's for me at the moment.
I think it is actually a pretty good place to sort of jump back onto it if you've kind of dropped out of Doctor Who. It feels very much like a continuation of the sort of Russell T Davies era. I mean, that is how it's sort of designed and how they've kind of picked it up. Not that they're ignoring everything that happened in between, and this episode particularly does make references to a number of things which happened in between as well. It was really, really well put together. I thought this was an excellent episode. It's practically a two-hander between David Tennant and Catherine Tate. Pretty much most of it takes place on a spaceship at the edge of the universe, which has the two of them in it, and they are trapped and trying to find a way off it. And it is basically a two-hander pretty much between the pair of them. but it's really well written. It's beautifully done, looks great. There were some references to the green screen not being brilliant in a few places, but generally, I mean, the production quality across the series for the 2 episodes we've had so far has been massively heightened from what we've seen previously on Doctor Who. We also get the final screen appearance anywhere of Bernard Cribbins, who sadly passed away shortly after they filming this. I mean, he was in his 90s, but I mean, he at least came back and sort of, it's rather sweet that he ended his career on the thing that sort of revitalized his career in his 80s, his late 70s, 80s. So it'd be lovely to have him back on, and this being his final appearance, I think he's rather sweet as well. But I'm just really looking forward to seeing where they end things and how they move from the 14th to the 15th Doctor, because we know that is obviously coming. The episode next week, which is called The Giggle, is the Neil Patrick Harris one. And I honestly, Neil Patrick Harris, you can put in anything and he will make it better. So I'm very much looking forward to that. We don't know what point Ncuti turns up. There is a suggestion that he will probably make an appearance in the episode next week in some capacity, but we don't know exactly how. This is going to be a very interesting regeneration because we still don't know why the 14th Doctor looks like the 10th Doctor. They still haven't given the explanation for that. So it's been great. I mean, these first 2 specials have been great. If you jumped off Doctor Who because you didn't like the direction it was going, now is a really, really good time to jump back on because they've been very, very well written, these 2. It's been really fun. So go and check those out. It's been great. The other show, as I mentioned before, is on Paramount Plus and is called The Mayor of Kingstown. There are 2 seasons of it out already. It's another Tyler Sheridan show, who is, of course, the person behind Yellowstone and a whole bunch of other things. Jeremy Renner is the lead on it, and it's a really interesting setup. It's got elements of Ray Donovan to it, I would say, if you like that sort of show. The principal setup is there is a fictional town of Kingstown, which is basically a town that is a bunch of prisons. So it is a town set up for essentially the workers of the 7 different prisons that are surrounding it. And the prisons are a variety of sort of, high max, low max, women's, men's, that sort of thing. Jeremy's character, Mike, and his brother are the sort of conduit for the prisoners to keep the prison population under control by doing sort of favors and being a sort of conduit between them and the authorities and the guards. So they're fixers, basically. And that's the setup for the show. The brother not really giving anything away because they open the show with Jeremy Renner saying, "I am the mayor of Kingstown." And when you actually start the show, Mitch, his brother, played by Kyle Chandler, is the mayor. And we're not talking about the actual mayor of the town. That's the title that is given to them as their fixers. Mitch is actually the, in quotes, mayor of Kingstown. So as you might guess, things don't go entirely well for him, and it ends up with Mike becoming the sort of mayor, in quotes, of Kingstown. It's a really, really interesting setup. As I say, because it's got this fixer element, there is a certain amount of sort of Ray Donovan-ness about it, as he's sort of got a shady past himself, but he is trying to do the right thing and be a good person, but he's having to do shady things along the way. The supporting cast is quite good. It's got Aidan Gillian in there, who plays this sort of Russian mobster who is trying to get Mike to do things that he doesn't want to do. You've got Diane West in there as his mother, who is great in that role. There's another brother as well who is a detective. You've got Emma Lard, who plays Iris, who so was in The Crowded Room as well, the Apple series, who a sort of high-end call girl who is also trying to get the attention of Mike as well. The 20 episodes of it across 2 seasons. I'm about 8 episodes into season 1 at the moment and really rather enjoying it. It's one of those things that, because we've got to that point in the year where a lot of things have started to fall off air and there are not that many new things starting. We're in that sort of wilderness period pre-Christmas and sort of over the Christmas period where people don't want to launch new shows as much. So I thought I'd go back through and watch some of the things that I thought I found interesting that were sort of of kicking around. So I would highly recommend that, though, if you've not gone to check that one out. Mayor of Kingstown is a good, gritty, quite darkly funny in places show. But yeah, worth going to check that one out. The other thing is it was MCM Birmingham this weekend, so there will be a few video clips going up. There was a fairly limited guest list, it would be fair to say, for MCM in Birmingham. Show was great fun, as it always is. It was freezing cold and snowed on like second and third day, but I mean,
oh wow,
very, very cold. But, you know, still great fun to be out there and wandering around the M&EC. It's a huge, huge show with lots and lots of great stalls. It's a good time to do it at this time of year. If you want to go and pick up some geeky Christmas shopping, it's great for doing that. But they did have a few different panels running, not as many as they usually do, but there were a few panels. Roger Clark from Red Dead and Troy Baker did a panel together for a game called Fort Solace, which they're apparently both in. The panel's really funny because technically that's what the panel was for, but they didn't really talk about that. They mainly talked about Red Dead and Last of Us because those are the games that they're known for. So most of the questions and most of the stuff that they were talking about was general kind of stuff around those games and the TV show and that sort of stuff. So there will be clips from that panel going up. It's an MCM show, so I can't put the whole panel up. It's going to be clips going up from that. Jennifer Hale and David Hayter did a panel for Metal Gear Solid, which was really interesting. If you're a Metal Gear fan, that should have some good bits in it for you as well. Then there was an Overwatch panel with Jennifer Hale again and Cara Theobald and Boris Helston. That was always fun to hear them talk about Overwatch. And there was a Baldur's Gate 3 panel with Neil Newborn and Devora Wild as well, which was great. I mean, Neil's always fun. I don't think I've seen Devora before, but Neil's always fantastic. And V's character in Baldur's Gate 3 is great as well, because that is the other thing that I've picked up Baldur's Gate 3 recently as well, so I've been playing through that. But
cool.
Really, really, really good. Great hearing them talk about characters and having fun with that. Those will be going up onto the YouTube channel fairly soon, some point later this week. Don't know exactly when yet, but as I say, they will be cut up into clips, unfortunately, because we can't upload full panels for MCM stuff. There is stuff up on there from Wales. If you want to go and check out the YouTube, there's some great panels up from Wales, which are full panels for that. That's all the stuff we've been doing this week. Let's move on to some TV and film news. So we kick off the TV and film news with renewals, cancellations and pickups. Fewer cancellations this week than we had the last couple of weeks, which is good. You know, that seems to have slowed down a little bit because it was a bit hectic before. But Swagger has been cancelled at Apple. That was an NBA drama that had 2 seasons, but that's been canned apparently. They've also cancelled Central Park as well, the animated series, after 3 seasons, according to Josh Gad. They've not officially announced that themselves, but Josh Gad said it's not happening anymore, which is a shame because there was a lot of popularity for that. I don't know why they've decided that's gone. Also, Riches, which was a sort of glossy, high-stakes family drama that was a co-production between ITVX and Amazon. Amazon have apparently dropped out, and although ITVX haven't officially said they've cancelled it, Amazon said they're not picking up the second season. So I rather suspect that's dead at this point, but that would seem to be the case because, you know, unless they go and look for another partner, but there was very little traction as far as I'm aware on that show. So I can't imagine it's something that they'll fight to bring back particularly.
So it's cancelled after season 1, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
That's cancelled after season 1. It went out, was it earlier this year or last year? I can't remember, but okay. So that's gone. And over on Amazon, the Grand Tour is, well, ending-ish. There is a final outing of the Grand Tour, which will have Clarkson, Hammond and May coming back doing a final adventure, basically, for them. But they have basically said that's going to be the last one. It seems to have been decision by the 3 of them that they've just want to go on and do other things. They're all getting a bit long in the tooth for all the antics they've decided, and they just want to go off and do other stuff. However, under their blessing, Amazon have been given the blessing to go and, like, you know, if they want to carry the format on with new presenters, they're happy for them to do that, which is interesting given the state of Top Gear right now. You do wonder whether some of the top, probably not Freddie, obviously, after everything, but you do wonder whether the other 2 Top Gear presenters might, and a third, might end up going and taking over the Grand Tour stuff. But yeah, I mean, which would be hilarious if that does happen. But at the moment, the Grand Tour in its current iteration has one more special to go out, and that'll be it. They are still working on shows with the three guys. So the James May, our man in thing is still going on. And also Clarkson's Farm, they've announced on the renewals, is being renewed for a fourth season ahead of the third season, which is going to be coming at some point in early-ish 2024. So there are definitely 2 more seasons of that on the way. They're working on stuff with Richard Hammond as well, apparently. So yeah, Clarkson Farm will be back, though. That's his main show, and James May will be doing his stuff as well. So so lots of that sort of thing. I mean, I hadn't watched the Grand Tour for quite a while. So yes, it looks like that's coming to an end. And Top Gear is also, as we mentioned last week, come to an end. So kind of lacking in car shows. I mean, maybe it's time Channel 5 brought Fifth Gear back, possibly. I don't know. But there's certainly an opening for a car show, I think, at the moment.
I agree.
I was saying last week, I mean, Top Gear, I think that format has got very, very tired, and they needs revamping in some way. What exactly they do, I don't know, but...
It's interesting you say this, because I think what, at least what I see on YouTube, because I find myself watching a great deal of YouTube these days, is that there's a lot of car content there, which is a direct extension of people who cover tech. Mm-hmm. So like the biggest name, like a guy called Marquise, he has a dedicated thing to because he was just showing off the Cybertruck. He actually got his hands on one.
Right, yeah.
I was driving that around, and that seems to be, I see a lot of the tech people covering cars, obviously covering, but those tend to be electric, obviously. Yeah. And I feel that probably be where we'll see things go next.
Yeah, my favourite suggestion for what to do with Top Gear was to hand it over to the Red Dwarf guys, purely because of the fact that you've got a pre-built group of people that know each other very, very well, that are really into their cars. I'm not sure quite how much Craig is, but certainly Danny, Chris, and Rob all love various different vehicles. You know, I mean, Rob's very into his electric cars. Chris is very into his classic motors. I think Danny is a motorbike guy as well as other sort of fast cars as well. So I think that's a brilliant idea, is just to hand the whole thing over to the Red Dwarf guys and let them do a show together on cars. It would be a wonderful experience, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Moving on to other renewals as well. Godfather of Harlem, that's been renewed for season 4 by MGM Plus in the US. Of course, it goes out on Lionsgate Plus over here. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with those shows because Lionsgate Plus is closing down next year. So that also goes for Power Book 3 Raising Kanan as well, which has landed an early season 4 renewal. Also goes out on Lionsgate Plus over here. Again, no idea what will happen and where they will land. It's possible we may get another streaming service. They sort of get rid of the Lionsgate Plus and launch MGM Plus globally. It may be that they will get sold to somebody else. Don't know at the moment. There has been a couple of US renewals for NBC, just mentioning these as a possibility that we might actually get pickups for these now they've got second seasons. Found, which is a missing persons drama starring Mark Paul Gosselaar and Shalona Hampton from Berlanti Productions.
Also Brett Dalton.
Yes, and Brett Dalton as well. There you go. I missed him in the casting list, but yes, there you go. So those guys in there. That has been renewed for a second season. That is an NBC WB co-production, so I don't know who has the international rights for that, so it could end up anywhere, but we'll see with that one. That is a possibility, and that's called Found. And the other one is called The Irrational. That stars Jesse L. Martin, who you'll know from The Flash, and he's a world-renowned professor of behavioral psychology with a unique insight into human nature, solving various high-stakes cases involving governments, corporations, and law enforcement. So, I mean, Jesse L. Martin's great.
I got screened into that because it's filmed in Canada.
Right.
Think of it as sort of very light Lie to Me with procedural.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing. So he has that sort of style, but obviously Lie to Me, he tended to take things to the extreme in the way that he dealt with people, whereas this one is he's very much this sort of a cool professor. Right. As opposed to Lie to Me, which whatever the heck that was, him just sort of running headlong into everybody.
Yes.
So yeah, it's fun. It's nice to see Jesse L. Martin as a lead.
Yeah.
We've sort of seen him sort of do the sort of supporting role as Joe West for all those years. I've also seen him, do the detective procedural thing over Law and Order for all those years.
Yeah.
He's a different character. Nice to see him up front like this.
Yeah.
I suspect it should be an easy pickup for like Alibi or somebody.
Yeah, I think it probably will be. I think that is an NBC Universal show, so, I mean, Sky, maybe, but, I mean, that doesn't always follow because they still have to pay for the shows, even though they are part of the same group. I mean, they're both NBC and Sky are owned by Comcast, but they still have to pay NBC for the show, even though technically it is moving around money internally. They need to balance the books. So, I mean, it doesn't cost them nothing. We'll see with that. It could end up on Sky. It could end up on, I mean, like you say, Alibi seems like a natural fit for it as well. So we'll see with that. But that one's called The Irrational. The Upshaws has been renewed for season 4 or part 6, apparently, by Netflix. So that will
while there, I thought it was season 4, part 6. But that's stretching things out a bit.
Yes.
If you want to break seasons up into 6 parts, it seems a little harsh.
Yes, I think it's one of those things, you know, a bit like Disenchantment or Sabrina, where it was sort of 3 seasons but 6 parts or something.
Or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, or
because I had loads of different parts.
Yeah,
during seasons.
So apparently, but yes, season 4, part 6, apparently. And the BBC has renewed the Gold for season 2 as well. So that will be coming back, which I know some of the key characters are not coming back, without giving spoilers away, but there are obviously some of the key characters are not going to be returning. But the story of them trying to recover the gold was much bigger than the sort of initial arrests and story that they told in that first season. So some people were surprised. They were like, well, how are they bringing that back? Well, you know, it is going to continue to follow.
Yeah, it is a bigger story than the beginning.
So, it's going to carry on with the police and all that sort of stuff about sort of them chasing the gold. So that will be back for a second season. And Reacher has been renewed for a 3rd season ahead of the season 2 launch, which launches on the 15th of December. So that is coming fairly soon.
I don't know about you, but I've been waiting for this.
Yeah.
I keep on checking, keep on thinking, is it coming out in November? No, it's not coming out. No, okay, come back. It'll be the 15th. It'll be fine. Just because I think it's a mixture between it's quite funny watching him beat people up, and I want to see if this style of show can work, because obviously it is just him returning every season and everything, including the locations, change.
Yes.
So I want to see if that works. Although we will see his friend who we did meet last season, his fellow army person.
Yeah.
But it is mostly all new people. So I just want to see how that works in a show like this.
Yeah, because that was the thing when we were watching it last time. It's like, I really like those characters, but, you know, you can't see them again because that isn't how the show works. It was great that first season. I really, really enjoyed it. I think he's really good in the role. And,
absolutely.
Perfect piece of casting for it. So, I'm so happy they've renewed it for a 3rd season, and it will be back for a 2nd season on the 15th of December. So that's Reacher. But if you've not caught that yet, go and check it out because it's really good.
I don't think he can keep on getting bigger every season, though, because he's quite famously put on like an extra 15 pounds of muscle for season 2. So I don't think this can just keep on going. It's going to get ridiculous.
Yes. It's going to look like the Hulk by the end of it if that carries on. In some pickups and other bits of news, Paramount Plus has picked up the US crime drama. It's airs on Fox over there called Accused. It is based on a UK series, if you're thinking, hang on, wasn't there a UK series called that? It's going to be airing from the 4th of January. It's from the people behind 24 and Homeland. Howard Gordon is involved in that. It's also David Shaw as an exec producer who is behind House and The Good Doctor as well. He's exec producing it. It's a sort of anthology thing, so it is a collection of 15 intense, topical, inquisitive human stories of crime and punishment told from the defendant's point of view. It is very much based on the British show. Some of the storylines they have reused from the British show, apparently, as well.
Was that the show that is literally just one room?
No, you're thinking of the Netflix series. It's not that.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I ever saw the original British series. I don't remember it. I know there's a lot of love for the original British series. It was made in 2010, and it's a Jimmy McGovern series, the original, and Danny Brocklehurst as well. So, it's Jimmy McGovern, Daniel Brocklehurst, Alice Nutter were the leads in it. Chris Eccleston and Mackenzie Crook were in it, Andy Serkis, Mark Warren. So it had an amazing cast through the series. But it was a BBC series, so there was only like 6 episodes in the first season, 4 episodes in the second season. So, of course, they've had to do a few more stories for this because there are 15 episodes in this. So they've they've come up with some more stories. There is a ridiculously sorry cast for it. The cast across it includes people like Rachel Bilson, Megan Boone from The Blacklist is in there, Aaron Ashmore, the same one that we mentioned earlier, he pops up in this. Jason Ritter is in it. Betsy Brandt from Breaking Bad is in there. Michael Chiklis, Whitney Cummings, Jack Davenport shows up, Margot Martindale, Molly Parker, Rhea Perman, Wendell Pierce, Michael and Jamal Warner. I mean, there's a huge array of sort of well-known TV names that are popping up in this. I'm sort of interested to see it. And I mean, when I posted it, there are people that have watched it that have said, love the British series, this one's rubbish. But I take that with a pinch of salt because people always have that reaction when the Americans remake something. So I will see for myself what I actually think of it. But Howard Gordon, I love his stuff. I mean, Homeland was great, 24 was great. As I say, David Shaw also co-executing it as well from House and The Good Doctor. So, I mean, there's a good set of shows that they've got under their belt between the pair of them. But as I say, they're sort of, it's a different cast with each episode, so there are different stories, and the thing that links them is this idea of them being told from the defendant's point of view. It's not the interview process, which was criminal. That was the one that you were thinking of, which was a great series as well. That's called Accused. It's coming 4th of January to Paramount Plus, that is, so keep an eye out for that. Gangs of London, which is currently going to be back for another season. They've announced some people that are going to be involved in that. Joining the cast are Andrew Koji from Warrior and Bullet Train, Richard Dormer from Fortitude and Game of Thrones and a million other things, Tina Miller from Years and Years, Full of the House of Usher. They're all joining the 3rd season, so that will be an interesting group of people. I don't think that means the end for Warrior because Andrew obviously is the lead on that one. I suspect this is just something he's doing alongside that, so keep an eye out for that. But that's been a great show as well, worth checking out.
Oh, definitely.
The Tourist finally got a premiere date for its 2nd season. That is the Jamie Dormer drama. That is coming New Year's Day. They've announced that. It's going to be on BBC One. It'll also be from 6 a.m. on New Year's Day. The entire thing will drop onto iPlayer, so you can basically, if you've got nothing else to do on New Year's Day, you can sit, immerse your hangover and watch The Tourist. It's all set in Ireland, I think, the 2nd season, because of course they were in Australia for the 1st season, so the 2nd season is in Ireland.
Okay.
Prime Video have announced they've greenlit a Cruel Intentions TV series based on the movie of the 90s, which I'm sure many of you remember. They've announced the cast for it as well. Sarah Catherine Hook from First Kill, Zach Burgess from Totally Completely Fine, Savannah Lee Smith from Gossip Girl, Sarah Silver from American Horror Stories, Kobe Carl from Firefly Lane and Yellow Jackets, John Holland Kim from The Last Thing He Told Me in 911, Brooklyn Johnson from You, and Sean Patrick Thomas from Till are the leading cast for that. Any interest in a Cruel Intentions TV series? I know they've tried a number of times to do this.
Yeah, they have tried some series and sequel and things like that. That sounds interesting, and that cast looks good, but then I see that Prime Video tag and go, how about I come check you after you renew it?
Yes, Prime Video does struggle a bit, particularly with these YA dramas.
Yes, they are very trigger happy on their YA dramas, and they've produced some amazing shows. I will never stop talking about how good I Know You Did Last Summer was, and they canned it.
Yeah.
So, and I think like a lot of people, they're going to be very shocked. Also, with the recent cancelling of The Wild after 2 seasons, that was another one that drove people crazy. So I suspect they're probably not going to see what they want to, and that's going to go the same way because people are just too nervous about these things now.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a shame that. I'd be interested to see it, and I really enjoyed the film, which of course was Ryan Philippe and Sarah Michelle Gellar, wasn't it? The movie version, but
fantastic.
Really good.
It's a double shame because it looks like the lead, one of the leads, Sarah Catherine Hook, came from First Kill. That was so messy. They had lightning in a bottle, Netflix did, and they cancelled that. I could not believe it.
Yes. Well, of course they did. It's Netflix.
So, if those people don't know, go look it up. First Kill, it is a LGBT a vampire versus vampire hunter thing, which is just, it's messy, it's fun, and it gets pretty wacky as you get further into it. Still worth to go and watch. Obviously, afterwards, you will be gritting your teeth and wailing because it was cancelled.
Yeah, it was one of those things that, I mean, Netflix made a million of these YA shows and then cancelled most of them. It's such a shame. It's just, they need a bit less intervention from the algorithm, I think, at that point, because the algorithm seems to just not like the YA shows.
Just retool the algorithm so it actually takes a look at social media reach, because there's no way it's taking it into consideration the way the things are.
Yeah, maybe. Sometimes these things need time to find their feet and they're just not given them.
I think in the same way that back in the day, Netflix would drop a small country's GDP on shows like House of Cards and all the rest of them, not for people to watch just because they're prestige. You need to understand that these are the sort of prestige shows are the thing, because you can point to First Kill as some excellent examples of representation and actually taking a look at a positive, non-tragedy story of LGBTQ in a TV show. Those are things you can hold up and show, but Memo hasn't got there yet.
Yes, unfortunately, First Kill's gone, but, First Kill's loss is Cruel Intentions game by the looks of things. So, she's going to be the lead of that, Sarah Catherine Hook. That's literally been announced today, so don't know when that is going to shoot and land, but presumably it'll be some point towards the end of next year that'll show up. They've also got some casting for the long in development Noel Hawley's Alien series, which we've been talking about forever as far as I can remember. Timothy Oliphant has joined that, so that we're going. Details on exactly what the series is are fairly scant right now, but we do know it's a prequel set on Earth rather than being on some random spaceship. It's set way before the events of the original film. It's supposedly set around the 2090s, so about a decade before we meet Ripley in Alien. The lead in it is Sydney Chandler from Don't Worry Darling and Pistol. She's playing Wendy, it's the character's name, who according to the reports is a hybrid metahuman who has the brain and consciousness of a child but the body of an adult. Timothy Oliphant is reportedly playing Krish, who is a synth who acts as her mentor and trainer. So those are the main two leads for it. Alex Lawther from Andor and End of the Effing World is playing a character called CJ, who's a soldier. There is Samuel Blenkin, who was in Peaky Blinders and The Witcher Blood Origin. He's a CEO called Boy Cavalier, apparently. Essie Davis who is Miss Fisher in the Miss Fisher murder mysteries and also popped up in Game of Thrones, playing somebody called Dame Silver. Ardash Gaurav is from Extrapolations and White Tiger. He's playing a character called Slightly, and Kit Young from Shadow and Bone is playing Toodles, apparently, in this. So those are the main cast for it that have been announced. Again, don't know exactly when that is dropping, but that is going to be on Disney Plus over here because it's being made for FX or FX on Hulu, I think that. So I do find it funny that, Disney owns Mickey Mouse on one hand and then Alien. It's just a really odd mix of things.
It is weird,
the amount of stuff that they had. But yes, so that is coming at some point. Don't know exactly when yet.
And one could argue problematic because obviously there's only so many large-scale franchises that you want going on at once. So somebody's got to take a backseat.
Yes. Noah Hawley, I love, and the Alien franchise has been very up and down, but
yeah,
I guess...
this is weird, whatever.
Yeah, we'll see whether this works, but yeah. BBC announced a new historical drama called King and Conqueror, which has got two very attractive leads in it. It's James Norton and Nikolai Coster-Waldau. King and Conqueror is basically the story that leads up to the Battle of Hastings in 1066. So Norton's playing Harold of Wessex and Coster-Waldau's playing William of Normandy. It's one of those things that they announced and you go, that's interesting. I can't think of another time where there's been a TV show or even a film that's actually covered this. It's such a big event, and you kind of would have thought that it would have been covered in quite a lot of detail in various various movies and TV shows, but I can't think of one. King Conqueror is the story of the clash that defined the future of a country and a continent for 1,000 years, the roots of which stretch back decades and extend throughout the pair of interconnected family dynasties struggling for power across two countries and a raging sea. Harold of Wessex and William of Normandy were two men destined to meet in the Battle of Hastings in 1066. Two allies with no designs on the English throne who found themselves forced by circumstance and personal obsession into a war for possession of its crown. Those are the two leads. The series is written by Michael Robert Johnson, who worked on Sherlock Holmes and the Frankenstein Chronicles. The opening episode is directed by Baltazar Kormacor, I think his name is, who directed Adrift and Everest and Trapped. Some good people involved in it. I think Norton is also exec producing through his production company as well. But to say, it's an interesting one because I don't think they've ever covered this area of history before. And I quite like a good historical drama. And, it's a good one for the BBC to pick up. I don't know whether this is planned as an ongoing thing or whether this is going to be a one-off stuff. But, I mean, the story of the Battle of Hastings, or the story that leads up to the Battle of Hastings more accurately. Any interest in this one? I quite like the sound of this.
I didn't study history when I was younger because I wasn't in the country at the time. I don't know if I get into it. But I can understand that if you did, this would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
By the sounds of it.
It's an interesting setup, and it's sort of a history that, I mean, everybody knows about the battle itself, but I don't think people know much about like Harold and William and the sort of history around that. I don't know how historically accurate it will be, of course, but I mean, I still think it's an interesting idea. That's all the stuff we've got for this week. There are a few highlights for next week on TV. So, highlights for next week on TV. As we mentioned earlier, we're in that sort of dead period where people don't really like launching new shows. There are a couple of things that are coming, though. Mayfair Witches, which we mentioned a few weeks ago, which is the sort of companion piece, which is apparently, from what everybody appears to be saying, nowhere near as good, to The Vampire Diaries by Anne Rice. Again by Anne Rice, but it's based on those novels. BBC 2, 6th of December at 9 p.m. That lands, although I think, actually, if you go onto iPlayer right now, all the episodes are already up on iPlayer, so you can go and check them out. I think they dropped on the 1st, but if you want to watch it on broadcast, it is BBC 2 at 9 p.m. on the 6th of December for that. Smothered is a new show coming to Sky Comedy. It's from Monica Helsky, who wrote on Schitt's Creek. It's John Pointing from Big Boys and Daniela Vitalis from May I Destroy You, as two sex-starved strangers who agree for some no-strings fun until strings begin to appear. So that's called Smothered. It's coming to Sky Comedy on the 7th of December. You can check that one out. And Vigil, the show which the first season was set in a submarine, the second season is going to be about drones. Saran Jones and Rose Leslie return to star in that, and it's sort of the police investigating issues with the military. But BBC One, 10th of December at 9 p.m, that lands on there. So that is their new show. Some interesting stuff coming back. Vigil, I very much enjoyed the first season, so I will be watching the second season of that. I might go and check out Mayfair Witches, although I have to admit, slightly put off by the fact that everybody says it's not very good, but we'll see.
Yeah.
If people want to find more of your stuff, where can they find you?
So they can head over to HollywoodNorthNews.net, where we'll try to keep them up to date with all things shot in Canada, which is more than you might think. I'm just about to go into an interview tomorrow about an organization that supports young black filmmakers in Canada. So you'll see that video up as soon as I can get it.
Awesome. Go and check out HollywoodNorthNews.net for all of that stuff over on there, and the videos and stuff and all of that kind of thing. Other people involved in the show, you can of course go and find Bex on twitch.tv/Trista Bytes. That's BYTES. She is streaming every week over there. She's raising money until the end of the year for Samaritans. She's doing a great job. She's raised a load so far, but go over and support her. She's just a wonderful charity, very much needed at this time of year, even more so than normal. So go over there, go support her. You'll have a lot of fun talking or playing games or painting herself in really horrific like Pokemon or whatever else she's doing for charity. But go and check her out over there. That's twitch.tv/Trista Bytes. Go and check that out. And Matt, you can find lots and lots more podcasts over there on entertainmenttalk.org for Manu podcast and for Gaming Talk and lots of other things as well. You can go and check out entertainmenttalk.org for all that. For us, you can go to the website at geektown.co.uk throughout the week and see all the latest air date information, and also go for geektown.co.uk/awards to enter the awards. Remember, go and do that now once you finish listening to this show. If you want to get in touch with your questions or comments, email us on podcast@geektown.co.uk, leave a message on the website post, find us at Geektown on Twitter, on Facebook at facebook.com/Geektown, on YouTube at youtube.com/Geektown, on Blue Sky at Geektown, on Instagram at Geektown UK, on TikTok at Geektown UK, and on Threads at Geektown UK. That is everything. We shall see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.